Hello, class. From time to time, I have a student confusing problems such as you see on the board. For example, in this first problem, I see a 3 at the top of my fraction in the numerator, and then the denominator is a 4. We say that 3/4, don't we? But I may also have a problem with the number that reads 4/3. Those are entirely different numbers, aren't they? One is a proper fraction and one is improper. A proper or improper fraction. So when you look at a fraction, the first thing I'd like you to do is to ask yourself, is this a proper or improper fraction? It is proper if the numerator is smaller than the denominator. The denominator must be larger in order to be proper. I heard someone once say that the bigger elephant must be holding up the smaller one. In other words, a bigger number will support the smaller number if he's like someone holding up the little guy, right? So in order to be proper, the larger one is on the bottom, holding up the smaller one is one way to look at it. All right, so ask yourself, proper or improper? Is 3/4 proper? Yes, it is. Is 4/3 proper? No, it is not, because the denominator is not larger than the numerator. Now, that also means that 3/3, what if they're the same? That is improper, right? That is also improper because the denominator is not larger, it's the same. So the denominator has to be larger in order for it to be proper. All right, so let's say it is proper. This one is proper. If it is proper, you need to ask yourself, can I reduce it? In this case, I cannot reduce it. It is reduced. What about this one? Is this one proper? Yes, it is, because an 8 is larger than a 6. Then the next thing ask, don't just leave it. Can I reduce it? What do I mean by reduce? I'm simplifying the problem. I'm finding a common number, aren't I? I'm finding a common, you could also say there is a number that can divide into both of those numbers evenly, and we can reduce the number. In this case, what number in your head can divide into 6 and 8 evenly? Often when we do this, think of the top number, the numerator. Sometimes it is that common factor, but in this case it's not. So go down. Can 5, can 4, can 3, can 2, 2 can go into both. 2 can divide into 6. How many times? 2 divided by 6? 3. Draw my fraction bar. 2 into 8, 4. Now I've reduced my problem. See, 6/8. The reduced problem is 3/4. And we looked at 3/4 before and said it was already reduced, right? And it is reduced. So if it is proper, reduce it. Make sure it's reduced. Now our problem's done. And we could go on to the next one. But what if it's improper? Like this one. If it's improper, then we're going to do this. Change to whole or mixed number. So that's something completely different. That's not reducing, it's changing to a whole or mixed number. We do that by dividing the denominator into the numerator. If it can go evenly, we say we're changing it to a whole number. If it does not go evenly, it's going to be a mixed number, meaning it's going to be a whole number of times dividing into it with some left over. So we could go 3 divided into 4. 3 will go into 4 one time, but how many would be left over to make 4? 3 goes into 4 one time, but there's one more left over to make 4, isn't there? And so it's 1 and 1/3. And the denominator is the same number. Now we could also do it this way. We're simply dividing our denominator into our numerator. 3 goes into 4 one time. 1 times 3, 3. Subtract, we get 1, and we're going to write the remainder as a fraction. 1 is in the numerator, and this divisor becomes our denominator. And that's our answer. That's the same thing, just 2 ways to arrive at it. So in review, if it is proper, reduce it by finding a common factor and dividing both the numerator and denominator by that number. If it is improper, that's when we divide our denominator into our numerator and get a whole or mixed number, in this case, a mixed number. Now let's look at this one. 8/6. Is that proper or improper? Is the denominator larger? No, it is not. Therefore, it is not proper, it is improper. So, if it is improper, what do we do? Change to a whole or mixed number. How do we change to a whole or mixed number? That's right. We divide our denominator into our numerator, and let's change it. Let's simplify it by changing it to a whole or mixed number. 6 goes into 8. How many times? 1 time. It can't go 2 times because that would be 12. But it can go 1 time because anything that's larger than it, it can divide into at least once. 1. How many more would make 8? 6 goes into 8 1 time. 2 more would make 8. So there's 2 left over. And our denominator is the same number. Now, is this mixed number reduced all the way? Sometimes we have to reduce our mixed number that we get. And let's look. 1 and 2, 6. Or we could also say, can 2 divide into 2? Can 2 go into 6? Yes. So I'm going to rewrite that. 1 and 2 goes into 2 1 time. And 2 goes into 6 3 times. 1 and 1/3 is my mixed number from 6/8, right? 1 and 1/3 is correct, isn't it? We just had to reduce this one, didn't we? Because it wasn't reduced all the way down. If there's a number that can divide into both evenly, it can be reduced. So always, this is where we often miss the problem, is we did this far, and then we just got in a hurry when we went on to the next problem. But we've got to have it reduced, okay? So sometimes the mixed number thing, you might have to reduce there too. Let's go to the next one, 3/9. Is that proper or improper? Always the first question you ask yourself. Well, is the denominator larger? Yes, so it's proper. All right, next question. If it's proper, I reduce it. I simplify. How do I reduce it? Divide both of them by what number? Yes, 3. 3 goes into 3 1 time. 3 goes into 9. How many times? Yes, 3 times. So our reduced problem is 1/3. And I'm just going to circle it so that your teacher or whoever is looking at the problem can easily find your final answer because you're doing all this work on your paper, especially when problems get bigger and there's more work involved. Let's look at the next one, 9/3. Is that proper or improper? Improper. Why? Yes, because the denominator is not larger than the numerator. So, since it's not proper, it's improper. What do we do if it's improper? Yes, change to a whole or mixed number. Divide 3 into 9, how many times? 3 times. Any left over? No. So it's simply made into a whole number because it went evenly, didn't it, when we divided? Okay, and we got 3. Well, I hope that this was a help to you. You can easily see now, hopefully, that 3/4 is definitely different than 4/3. And 3/9 is definitely different than 9/3. Because by the time you simplify both of those, you get 2 very different answers. So make sure you're watching and paying attention and knowing the difference between those 2 concepts as you work your problems. If you like this video, please click like, and hopefully that helped you today. And remember, learn something new every day. You take care. Bye.